this was going on in my head. Creeping, seeping, eating into my fucking soul, my head, my heart, everything. And took it for 6 goddamn months. And then even after that, I still made myself suffer for 3 or 4 years later after that. And here's it even worse. Here's why it was such a big fucking waste of time in the first place. Then I had another girlfriend who absolutely cheated on me, cheated on this and that, treated me like a fucking prick. Now, it didn't last very long anyway, so I got rid of her. But I was definitely more self-aware at that stage. So the point is this. Even though Peter wants to burn himself to the ground, it's okay. Karma's going to come around and bite you on the ass anyway.
Peter.
To that just stupid relationship. You know, when we all have that sort of person. Oh, well, Mary or Peter, he's not my normal cup of tea, but there's something about him. There's something about her. And you can't put your finger on it. You can't put your finger on it because it's your fucking blind side and you don't want to look at your blind side. I think that's what happens a lot of the time. Okay? And there's a temptation and a desire for us to burn to the fucking ground. That's exactly what I wanted to do with a lot of guilt that I had in my day. And then when I had that guilt, when I was cheating on that girlfriend I had 15 years ago, I ended up going into the most ridiculous fucking relationship because I genuinely felt that I should be burned to the stake, burned to the ground. I didn't deserve to be living. I mean, just stupid subconscious bullshit that I dealt with, and I then decided to go out with the worst girl I could find. Therefore, that made me feel a little bit more of a victim, or it made me feel, oh, I'm actually human. And I created these feelings in my head that I really liked her. So therefore, subconsciously, I needed to burn in hell and take the punishment from this girl because I felt so guilty about going out with the last girl and I cheated on her and I felt so horrendous about it. And then consciously, I was actually creating feelings for this girl. I mean, genuinely, guys, even when I look back now. And even when I was going out with this girl, right, it didn't add up. Like, I even vividly remember saying to myself a couple of times, we had some problems. I'm like, why am I putting up with this shit? Seriously, Peter, why are you putting up with this bullshit? And I just couldn't for the life of me put my finger on it. I genuinely couldn't, guys. And you'd have that kind of flashes. I'm like, oh, do I deserve this shit? Should I be taking this garbage or not? What do I do here? What do I do? And it just made all the sense in the world when I saw Sopranos the other night. And you know what, guys? It just killed me. I went, do you want to give the beating or take the beating? Like, I genuinely do believe, guys, we have a dark, deep desire when we feel guilt that the desire for us, and this is why we're attracted to some people, is that we want to get punished. Not because you think it's hot and all that. No, it goes much deeper than that. It's because you feel you really actually deserve to be taking a beating. And this is the ultimate way of getting back at yourself because it relates something back to mum and dad. Now, for me, what happened with me is that I never got abused like this. Obviously, you have some fights and families have problems and this and that, but nothing you can't get over. You know what I mean? But for me, when I was going out with that girl, I cheated on her. Now, again, we're going back 15, maybe even more, guys. I can't even tell, but long time ago. And for me, I felt so fucking bad for cheating on her. I'll never forget it. That I remember there was one time when I said, Jesus, Peter, what are you doing? Why are you cheating? I felt so goddamn bad. I had this vision of my mum in my head that she would feel so goddamn ashamed of me that I was cheating like this. And how could I do it to such a wonderful girl? It fucking killed me. Again, back to my mother. Now, my mother didn't give me the problem, but so I think a lot of things, sometimes it can come back to our parents, right? Where our parents can be abusive, and then it travels into us because we genuinely feel, we deserve now to take a beating, and we deserve the guilt. And it's a pattern. It's a pattern that we're used to. Literally save yourself, 6 months, a year, 2 years, a lifetime of being with the wrong person. Literally, you could save yourself years of wasting time. Now, I have. And maybe I do it in a lot of ways, even to this day. Probably do in different scenarios. But the more we can be self-aware, the better. The better. And, you know, like, even if we're in that bad relationship, where do you end up going? Where do you end up going? You know it's fucked. Let's reverse the I'm not even speaking English here. Let's reverse the role around. What if you are the abuser in a relationship? Most people, guys, when they're abusing, they're projecting their own bullshit that they had to put up with when they're kids. Again, back to your mother and father, right? And they abused you, they were assholes to you, whatever. Now, guess what? You've just taken on board because you're angry, you're hurt, you're resentful, you hate people, all because of your parents. So on the receiving end, Peter goes into a relationship. He fucks 6 months away of his life that he could have just been nice and normal. But again, because I was not self-aware, I decided to burn myself to the ground. And I genuinely mean, guys, the guilt I fucking felt over that cheating on that girl was horrendous. I still had that guilt 3 to 4 years after I was with her. And again, after that same girl, that asshole girl I dated afterwards. Still was in me, you know, still wasn't in me. I knew enough. There was I think there was a subconscious thing in my head saying, hey man, you gotta dump this bitch, this girl who I dated afterwards. You know, there was definitely enough of me to go, hang on a second, I don't deserve this. But even when I broke it off, I still had that, well, you definitely deserve to burn in fucking hell, man. Fuck you, fuck you. And I suffered for years afterwards, guys. Years. And I think a lot of us do carry that shit around with us all every day. We have to try and be self-aware. And by the way, this is for my own bullshit mistakes here, so I'm no fucking angel here at all. And but my point is that if we can be self-aware, I mean, you have to think about it, guys, right? How bad do you have to feel? How bad do you want to burn yourself to the goddamn fucking ground, excruciate yourself, and put yourself through 6 months of bullshit going out with the wrong person? That means you want to fucking self-destruct. Who wants to put themselves through 6 months of hanging out with some asshole you don't want to be around? Like, I didn't even want to be around this girl. No, I didn't. It was a lot of bollocks. I created feelings for this girl. Very simple. Created feelings for this girl. It was all bullshit. And what was it all for? For the big ultimate goal. Peter cheated. My mum would be ashamed of me. And Peter, you're no son. That's what was going on in my head. And by the way, my mum would never feel this way. I know that. But this was going on in my head. Creeping, seeping, eating into my fucking soul, my head, my heart, everything. And took it for 6 goddamn months. And then even after that, I still made myself suffer for 3 or 4 years later after that. And here's what even worse. Here's why it was such a big fucking waste of time in the first place. Then I had another girlfriend who absolutely cheated on me, cheated on this and that, treated me like a fucking prick. Now, it didn't last very long anyway, so I got rid of her. But I was definitely more self-aware at that stage. So the point is this. Even though Peter wants to burn himself to the ground, it's okay. Karma's going to come around and bite you on the ass anyway. So all your sort of self-destructive patterns, well, life stepped in anyway and decided to get you back. That was for goddamn sure. Jesus Christ. So guys, a lot of us, we carry around a lot of guilt. So, and it all comes back to our parents. Peter goes and cheats, feels like shit, goes out with another girl, makes himself suffer, punishes himself and goes out with that girl, and even after that still carries loads of guilt around for years. Why? Because mum would fucking hate me for doing it. Back to Peter's parents. Let's go on the other end of it. The person who's given the abuse goes around, treats the treats the girl or guy like shit. Maybe even, I'm not saying, by the way, I've never physically abused anybody here, guys, right? So never in my life, never have, never will. But I'm just saying about just people in general now, okay? I'm not talking about just myself. But let's just look at these abusers, right? Everybody knows that they're out there. The physical abusers, guys who kick the shit out of their woman, right? Horrendous stuff. They abuse them that way, or they abuse them verbally, or mentally, or emotionally, or whichever way you want to call it. Or there's women who emotionally or verbally abuse their man. Do you know? And this shit happens all the time. And why? Because 99% of the time, something happened in their childhood where they got bullied themselves. And guess by who? By mum and dad. By mum and dad. And in many ways, it's very unfair for, isn't it? It's so fucked up. It's not the parents' fault. We're all there for our own decisions. We're all responsible for our own shit. Now, hey, you start getting abused at a young age, that's horrific. Horrific. And if you can be self-aware about it, that's good. And I'll close on this. Abuse happens. And it all comes back from our parents. And I turned on myself. That was the worst part of all. No one abused me. My parents didn't abuse me. Ex-girlfriends didn't abuse me. But because I felt that guilt, because I felt mum would hate me for doing what I did, I carry that guilt around. And guess what? No one abused me. I abused myself. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.
Peter
Walsh.